Hi folks, I wanted to give a brief overview and introduction to the final project for 626 coming up in it's due in week 10. There is a handout which provides an overview, and it has all this material that I wanted to walk you through briefly and then review 3 of the primary potential tools. First, in terms of the overview, this final project can either be an app or an online learning module for something that you use in a CMS like Moodle or Blackboard or something like that. It does not have to be for a course which is taught online. It could be online, face-to-face, hybrid. You could develop an app that you wanted to use with your students in the classroom. Any of those things are fine. What's important is that the delivery of the content needs to happen either via a website or via a device. There are 3 primary pieces that I recommend looking at before you decide. EXE, Udoto, and iBuild app, and I'll cover those in just a bit. It's important that you know what you're going to present and what the assignment guidelines are before you actually decide on the tool. So essentially what we have is that you need to generate something electronic that delivers about a week's worth of content to your learners for that specific subject matter. If you're teaching 6th grade, it would be a week's worth of social studies material or a unit. If you're teaching undergraduates, then a week's worth of content in, say, phys ed training or pedagogical theory or what have you. But before you figure out the actual scope, what we want to do is move through the assessments like we did with Doolittle. You will repeat all of those so that you can get laser focused, then move into a module creation, and then do a self-evaluation. All of these components have equal value. The model there should remind you of ADDIE to an extent. So if you want to use the same theme, same topic, same content for your final course module, which you developed as you worked on your instructional guide, that is fine. However, what I suggest that you do is that you go back and you use the same assessments, but that you enrich them, that you go deeper, and that you find more detail, because a 1-page instructional guide is not the same as a 1 week worth of content. So again, you can use the same guides, you can submit those, but they need to be expanded upon in order to meet that specific app or course module which you are developing. It's critical that you work through these assessments so that you know exactly what you want to deliver to your learners. If you have any questions or you're not sure at all, definitely check with me via email. Then once you have worked through those assessments, then you'll want to start creating the online learning module. This can either be a module or it can be an app. Either one is fine. Again, I'll talk to you in a bit about these different programs. There are specific numbers of different types of materials which need to be present, either embedded or linked. Ideally, they should be embedded, but if the software is limited, like some parts of EXE are, then you can go ahead and link to them. These are the different kinds of content here. As we scroll down, then it shows how I will assess, making sure the media is there, making sure the course is organized, that you did what you actually discussed in the different worksheets, and that it's organized cleanly and clearly, and that it achieves the learning outcome. Finally, there is a cover letter where you reflect and you discuss what you did, how you did it, and how the piece of online content, how the course module meets your pedagogy, meets your goals, or the same with an app. I have specific formatting requests, and again, much of this is to help you not just create a course module or an app, but to understand why you did what you did, what worked well, what didn't, so that when you work on this in the future, it will be easier and more efficient. And again, on the handout, there are clear points in terms of how I will be scoring this. Now, how you choose to create your content for the final assignment is up to you. There are several options, and I want to review some of those right now. One of them is the open source .exe project. Searching exe is kind of hard because it's the same as an executable file, but there is the exe wiki. EXE does not work on some newer systems, and it has a limited amount of support online. So if you encounter any issues using EXE in the beginning, I suggest that you move on to another option. The benefit of EXE is that it exports to SCORM, which is a file format which can be used by Moodle. It's pretty simple, it's pretty basic, and if it works on your hardware, it is a good thing. But if you find yourself running into multiple issues, always move on to something else. So again, there's not as much support for it as there used to be, but it's always worth trying to see how well it works. The next section is Udutu. This is a commercial service which allows you to build free online modules and you host them at their site. Several of our students last term used this because their system would not or could not work with EXE. I suggest if you want to create an online learning module that you become familiar with Udutu pretty quickly. And finally, there is iBuild app, which really is, it's a very simple, what you see is what you get, drag and drop kind of app builder. You can build apps for the iPhone, the iPad, or the Android. Again, this is pretty easy, mostly drag and drop. Little to no coding is necessary. And if you have iPads in your classroom or you're wanting to work with iPads, I suggest that you take this time to actually experiment with this approach. What's important at this point in the game, though, is that you not decide prematurely which format you're going to work with. Instead, I highly urge you to experiment, test multiple ones out, and then see what you think afterwards.